The preface here, I've wanted to like this movie every time I've watched it.
Me too.
I really have.
Me too. I even tricked myself into liking this movie once.
I did too, yeah. But watching it again, I can't do it. It's not a good movie. And I know that some people out there really like this movie and they think it's the best, not only just the best Superman movie, but they say it's one of the most underrated superhero movies of all time. I don't agree.
Wrong.
I do not agree. This movie is bad on so many levels.
It's not good. And here's what I will say in defense of everything. I think that Henry Cavill likes the character of Superman, and I think that he could have been a good Superman, but this movie did not showcase that.
No. So let's start off with the plot and story, and I have so many issues right off the bat. So it starts off with Krypton being destroyed, as every Superman origin story does. But this one actually spends more time on Krypton with, shows like Jor-El and all these things, that's cool. I'm down for that.
It's fine. I didn't feel like it was necessary.
No, it wasn't, but it gives General Zod a couple minutes to show himself and show his motivations, and that's great. But once it gets to Earth, it spends every other 5 minutes flashing back, and it jumps between modern-day Clark Kent and child Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And it's not sequential. Like, there's a scene where you see his Pa Kent get blown up by a tornado, and then another flashback later, it shows him back alive again.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching Family Guy, where they, say something, and then it, shoots back into the past however many years or whatever.
Yeah.
There's, a bit there. It's like that, except not fun.
It was so choppy that it was hard to get into anything, because it's like, okay, is this movie about his childhood, or is this movie about his adulthood? And the other thing about it is, even though it kept flashing back, it's so... The tone of it, and I'll talk more about that in cinematics, but it's just so dismal and depressing. Not even dark, it's just depressing.
Yeah.
And so it's it's so hard to want to get into the story or care about anything. And then...
There's just too much going on.
There's too much going on, too many flashbacks, and then once it gets past the flashbacks and the movie actually kicks off, an hour and a half later, we timed it. It was an hour and a half before this actually happened. General Zod comes down, and then it's more of a linear storyline. But even that story felt more like just mindless action than it did a story.
It did. This movie, it's hard to just talk about the plot and story on its own because the cinematics were so rough that it really makes it difficult to enjoy the movie for what it is. I will say, so the story follows Clark Kent as he discovers who he really is, and as he gets to know Zor-El, and as he gets to kind of develop into Superman, and then obviously General Zod comes in and he tries to take over the Earth and turn it into Krypton, and in order to do that he needs to kill Superman or something and also terraform the Earth. Here's the issue. First of all, I don't need a Superman story. Nobody needs a Superman origin story. That is completely unnecessary to the character. He's a dude that's invulnerable, can shoot lasers, and flies. We don't need to know where he came from, because no one on Earth does. Mm-hmm. So if you had a Superman story where he just shows up and starts saving kittens from trees, everybody would be fine with that. Mm-hmm. I don't need to know his backstory. I don't need to know why Zod wants to kill him. None of that was important to me. Mm-hmm. My whole thing with Superman is I want to see him saving people, and I want to see his moral dilemmas. I don't need to see anybody that's a physical threat to Superman.
Yeah.
I don't need to see him being bad at using his powers at first and getting used to them. He's Superman.
Yeah.
He can do anything that he wants to.
I'm the whole Superman, and I can do whatever I want.
I'm a fan of the Superman character. I just want to see him be Superman.
Yeah, and I would say that I actually do want to see somebody that actually is a challenge for him, because if not, you get movies like Superman Returns, which is kind of boring.
It is boring.
But I think that the way that they handled this, and here's the other thing I was going to say is, I think that Zack Snyder had a lot of good ideas for what he wanted. With this is a very different twist on Superman, where you have the old Christopher Reeve Superman movies and everyone loves him immediately and he loves everybody immediately and he just saves everyone. in this one, not only does nobody like him, but he also doesn't seem to know if he can trust them. So it's a different.
He doesn't love humans.
No, it's a very different spin on Superman, and I think that's unique. And I can see why he wanted to do something different to make this movie stand out. And to be fair, it doesn't feel like any other Superman movie we've ever had, so he succeeded on that front. But it's not a story I enjoy watching. It's so choppy, it's so hard to get into, and then once you get to the last act, it just all of a sudden like they're trying to make up for all the lost time.
Sure.
And it feels rushed. It feels packed with action that like Ben at one point said, "What the frig is going on?"
Yeah.
Because you can't really follow it. It's too fast. And so it's like, I know some people like this movie. I don't really understand why, because the story just doesn't work for me. I know what they were trying to do, and I can respect the ambition, but I don't like it.
Sure. And I'll get back to the character arc of Superman, even though he's invulnerable. I'll talk about that more in characters. I give the story a 1. It's hard to follow. It's quite confusing. And there's just not... Man, can you hear that ambulance? I'll bet you can. I'll bet you can. But anyway, it's just not... It's hard... There's not much of a story there. It's just like a bunch of stories to try to get you to know who Superman is, which I just don't think was necessary to anybody. I think that every child knows who Superman is.
At this point, yeah. So I gave it a 1.5. I don't even know why I gave it a 1.5, other than I like the ambition. I think some of the things he chose to do were creative, and I want to give him points for creativity, I guess. I don't know, but
why are my eyes so red?
Because you're Superman, you're shooting lasers at this movie. But anyway, I gave it a 1.5. It's not good.
All right. You've got our attention. What is it you want?
I would like to speak to Lois Lane.
What makes you think she's here?
Don't play games with me, General. I'll surrender. But only if you guarantee Lois's freedom.
Otherwise, I'll burn this whole place to the ground.
The acting and characters in this movie, I don't necessarily hate any of the actors. Like, I don't hate them. I don't love any of them, and I don't like the characters.
Yeah.
I want to just clarify something. I'm okay with Superman fighting people who are physically a match to him. I'm cool with Zod. I'm cool with Darkseid. I'm cool with
Brainiac.
Yeah, Brainiac. I'm trying to think. There's got to be at least one more.
I don't know. That's all I got.
I mean, there's plenty. I'm fine with him having somebody that's a physical challenge. But what's really interesting to me about Superman, especially in these early movies, it's really important to demonstrate his love for human beings and how he never wants to put them in danger. And that was not in any way showcased in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie, it feels like, and this is something that can be said about a lot of the DC Extended Universe, a lot of these movies feel like they are built to, or Cinematic Universe, DCCCU, it feels like these movies are built to build up to the fact that Superman is going to take an injustice route and he's going to become an evil dictator. But the thing about Injustice comics is the reason that is so compelling to so many Superman fans and DC readers is because we grew up where Superman could do no wrong, that he loved people, that he would never do any amount of dictatorship, that he obeyed the law, that if he got arrested for something, that he would sit in prison until his time was up. That's the Superman that we know and love, and that's why it's so compelling when he does turn evil, because you're like, well, something must have gone horribly wrong for him to make this switch. Superman is the kind of guy that would rather catch somebody from falling than stop the bad guy. He would stop an entire fight with Darkseid to help an old lady cross the street. That's how much he loves people. And this movie shows him destroying Metropolis as he stops General Zod.
Yeah.
I will say this movie felt like General Zod's character was more built.
I was actually going to say
Superman.
that. I think that General Zod is actually the best part of this movie character-wise. I don't think the actor was all that great.
Not particularly. He met the needs for the character.
He was okay. And actually, Zod, I understood a little bit because he was... The way that he's... I don't know if this is how he is in the comics, but in this movie, he was created literally to be a soldier to protect Krypton, and so that was in his DNA.
Yeah.
And so when Krypton gets destroyed, his immediate reaction is to go rebuild it and protect it, and that makes sense to me. And it makes sense why he wouldn't care about what the consequences would be for other creatures, because he's only for Krypton.
Exactly.
And actually, I really like that there's this moment after Superman destroys the machine that was turning Earth into Krypton. You see Zod just sitting there in his devastation. He goes, "My entire purpose was to provide for these people, and now I have no people." And you see that moment of his, like, I have no purpose. I am now going to destroy everything. And, like, I bought that moment because I bought that part of Zod, and that was a really good moment for him. Superman does not have any of those moments.
No.
He's not relatable. He's not particularly likable.
He doesn't care about a single human being other than his mother.
His mother and
Lois
Lois.
Lane.
Well, and he does save a couple. You see, like, he saves the school bus from drowning
When he was a kid.
when he's a kid. You see him, and you see
And
him.
as an adult, he saves the guy in the oil rig.
He saves the guy in the oil rig. You also see him. He snaps Zod's neck to save the family that was crowded in the
he
corner.
snapped a person's neck for that.
That's the thing. Is like he's very violent. And anyway, I think that Henry Cavill had it in him to do a good job.
He did. And he loves Superman.
Superman.
No hate on my man.
Yeah, I don't like Ben said, I'm not dogging on any of the actors here so much, although I didn't love the actor that played Zod, which is funny because he's my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't hate. He was fine.
But I think that Superman, the way that they took him, the direction Zack Snyder wanted to do to make him different, it didn't work super well for me because I didn't like the character anymore. I didn't care. I wasn't really rooting for him. He wasn't a superhero at that point. He was kind of just this mopey guy that has powers.
And again, with the character of Superman, I don't need to watch him get used to his powers. Mm-hmm. And especially not for the amount of time that it took during this movie. Like, I watched all 10 seasons of Smallville. And that, the whole time, was him getting used to his powers. But the difference is, that was a TV show whose purpose was, what would it be like if Superman was an awkward teen?
Right.
You know, at this point in his adult life, Superman should have been able to handle himself more. It's not in his character. Yeah, it's in his character to stop a man from slapping a waitress's butt. Yeah. But it's not in his character to shove entire trees through a man's truck just out of petty revenge.
Yeah.
This is not a Superman character. It's not really a Superman movie. It's borderline like an evil Superman movie. It's like right on the
setting
line.
Up for it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's right on the line. And so as far as the most of the characters go, which I mean, in my opinion, most of the other characters in the movie don't really matter that much. I came here to watch Superman.
Well, and they don't feel like they matter.
No,
There's not a single character that feels like the closest one beside... It feels like a Zod Superman movie, and Lois Lane is in it.
Yeah,
and Lois
for some reason. Her character gets dragged around for no reason at all.
That was another plot thing I was going to mention. I'm just going to throw it in right here with character. She would just show up and be there for the sake of being there, and their romance was so forced. Yeah. Because they did not, at no point did they feel like they had even built up like a tiny bit of chemistry, and then they're kissing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at this point, you really should have just saved their romance for the sequel that you were inevitably going to do, and just let them be friends in this movie.
Which they decided to just not do.
It's a really bad decision. Anyway, Amy Adams is not great as Lois Lane. I didn't think she was okay, but again, not really dogging on her as much as just what they did with the character of Lois Lane. It just didn't work for me. So, yeah, really, this movie just struggled finding characters that were likable. That's the biggest issue I have. I think that Zack Snyder, again, he made them in a unique way that made sense to him, and a lot of people apparently I don't like it. I don't like the direction they took. It's different, but it's not an improvement. That's how I feel about it. I gave it a 2 because I wanted to give the acting some credit because I think they did the best that they could, but I don't like the characters.
I agree with that. I think that the issue with this movie is primarily in the writing and not in the acting. Mm-hmm. So I also gave it a 2. you can't dog on these actors because they did the best with what they had. And many of them are good actors.
Yeah, they're big names.
They're
huge
big names. It's a pre-star-studded cast.
Lawrence Fishburne, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Like, those are big names.
They even had, what's his name from 300? Why can't I remember his name?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe,
yeah, he's in it.
Big names.
Big names.
Big names. And they're good actors. They just were not given a script to work with.
This is Coast Guard 6510. We're gonna make one more pass, then we're getting out of here.
Wait, I got some guys in the helipad.
Get that last guy loaded! We have got to go!
Hey, let's go! What are you doing?
When it comes to the action of Man of Steel, it felt like too much at once because they saved it all for the last 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And so, now here's what I will say about it. I think that it looked pretty good, especially because you actually get to see Superman using his full extent of his powers to try to stop Zod.
Yeah.
And that looked good. I think the flying and the fight punches and throwing each other around looked pretty good. But the thing is, it was too much and it felt pretty mindless and directionless. Like, they were throwing each other through buildings, things were exploding, and it was so fast that it was hard to see. Like, at one point, I remember turning to Ben during the final battle and saying, I can't tell who's losing. I can't tell which one of these characters is actually winning this fight because I couldn't tell the difference. They were so fast.
Yeah, and that's a cool idea because if you had like super speeded beings like that, they wouldn't fight in normal speed.
Right.
So it was kind of cool to see that in full speed. I wish that they had more scenes. I don't necessarily need slow-mo, but I wish that they had more scenes where you could see what was going on, and if that meant that the background was more or less holding still, that would have been fine. I don't have any issue with that. I feel like a lot of there's good ways and there's bad ways to do somebody running in full speed in slow-mo. The best way to do it is to make it look like they're not trying to run through syrup, which is the one thing that something like a lot of times they do, and I feel like you see that a lot in like the later Zack Snyder films, like the Justice League, when the Flash is running at full speed and you see him in slow motion. It's almost like he's like trying to swim through syrup, and that's just kind of weird to me. But I agree with that. There were times when somebody would get chucked into like the moon or something, I don't remember, and they would just like disappear. And I get it. Like, I know why they did it, but I just wish I could have seen a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no hate on it. Like, I understand why I totally get why they directed it that way.
Yeah, no, I get it too, and I will say that it's the most intense action sequence in any Superman movie that we've had thus far, and I will say also, I was kind of craving that sort of action in the old ones, because the old ones the action is basically non-existent, at least in that sense. So I appreciate what they did, but again, I wish instead of just trying to throw it all in at once in the last 45 minutes, they'd spread it out and let's have relish.
A couple more scenes would have been nice.
Yeah, and it was too much. Like, it's a little bit reminiscent of the fight between the Hulk and the Abomination and the Incredible Hulk, where they just pound the crap out of each other and things explode. But the difference is, in the Incredible Hulk, you can follow it, and it's actually pretty. Like, I enjoy watching that scene, whereas with Man of Steel, I can't really follow it, and it feels too heavy all of a sudden. Like, we had nothing, and all of a sudden, like, 500 pounds just drops on some action sequences, and everything's exploding, buildings are falling, and Superman's not saving anybody. I didn't like it very much, but I respect what they did, you know. I don't know. That's kind of weird way to say it.
That's how I feel. It's like I understand why they did what they did. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, if you're trying to make an art piece, my enjoyment of that doesn't matter a whole lot.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to make something that's entertaining, it does. And I did not find this movie very entertaining. A lot of the action sequences because of that.
Yeah.
More because of the cinematics, but more on that later.
Yeah. I gave it a 1.5. I feel like I can respect ambition and what they were trying to do, but that's about as far as I can give it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't think it worked really well.
Exactly, which is also why I gave it a 1.5.
Yeah.
I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. And every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people. And now, I have no people. My soul. That is what you have taken from me. I'm going to make them suffer, Cal. These humans you've adopted. I will take them all from you, one by one.
You're a monster, Zod. And I'm gonna stop you.
The cinematics in this movie were borderline criminal, and Zack Snyder should be arrested.
It's so bad.
The movie, the entire movie feels like the camera was 3 inches from the face of the actor.
Yeah.
And I know this about Zack Snyder, and I remember when we turned it on, I was like, oh, right, Zack Snyder's the guy that zooms in on everybody's faces. And that's how the entire movie felt. I felt like
not even just faces.
Anything.
Anything. I remember there's a scene where Lois Lane is running down an alleyway to escape the feds who are after her, and the camera is following 2 inches from the back of her head.
Yeah.
We're not seeing her run down an alleyway, we're seeing her head bounce.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how am I supposed to get into the intensity of this moment when I'm watching hair in my face?
Right,
you know?
exactly. And speaking of bouncing, it seems like the whole movie was filmed handheld.
Yeah.
Which, like, you can have some handheld scenes, that's fine. But does the whole movie need to be handheld? Can we not have any steady cam?
Right.
It truly felt like the cameraman was walking with the actors, and with each step he's going up and down and up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm fine. There's a time and a place, Zach. Can I call you Zach? There's a time and a place for everything that you do. Sometimes extreme close-ups are really cool. This is not one of them.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes shaky cam is cool. Not right now.
Yeah.
If it helps towards the story, then that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't the case in this movie.
No.
And so it became apparent immediately. When we were on Krypton, I was like, oh, this is going to get old real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it did. You get used to it. By the end of the movie, you're not thinking about it as much, but you still wish it wasn't there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Get a little bit more social distancing going on for
Exactly.
COVID's sake, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Or
just for personal space.
Yeah, that too, honestly. I imagine they had a really hard time acting.
Yeah.
With cameras right up this close to their face.
Yeah.
Something else I want to talk about that actually like actively bothered me about the cinematics of this movie was the costume design.
Yeah.
Clark Kent wears a V-neck.
Yeah, he does.
Through every single scene, whether it's his suit, which is a V-neck, or it's just even shirts or whatever, they're all V-necks. And the man's got some hairy chest.
He does.
And so when he's Superman and he's flying, you see the hair sticking out from his chest blowing,
Mm-hmm.
and it distracted me. Like,
Oh,
it was so bad that I was like, can they not shave him?
It distracted me, but in a good way. I was like, nice.
You're like, nice.
Also,
Now that's some chest hair.
The dude is huge.
Oh, he's big. Yeah.
He looked amazing in this movie. Henry Cavill was already a big dude. He was huge in the Witcher. Is that what it's called? Yeah, The Witcher. He's been huge in every role he's ever played, but in this movie, good golly,
He was big.
he's a big boy.
He's a big boy, but the costume design was actively bothering me about the suit, and I don't remember anyone else's costume design bothering me, but his definitely did.
He was always in like really baggy clothes too.
Yeah.
I don't know what the purpose of that was. One thing that I liked about Tom Welling when he was a little bit later in the show, he would wear like button up like shirts, and he looked really good in that, and it was like it felt more Clark Kentish. I guess in this movie they just don't know who Clark Kent is. Which is also, it feels like in most movies they don't know who the superhero is. That seems to be a recurring theme. But yeah, like it seems like they just didn't know anything about the character of Clark Kent. And they were like, He's the kind of guy that would be like working in a diner wearing a low-cut plaid V-neck, right?
Yeah, I'm like
Just showing off his cleavage.
Yeah, I'm like that. It did not work for me. And so when you add up the fact that every shot is super close.
One more thing: set design. Why were those spaceships so phallic looking? They didn't need to do that.
I forgot about that.
They didn't need to do that. I mean, it literally looked so obvious. There's no way it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
There's no way it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
And a lot of the set design was fine, but that there was enough to just make me just not like the rest of the set design. I will say the music was fine.
I don't even remember. I think that the score was, I'm sure, fine for what they were doing. But
Yeah, I mean,
I missed the old Superman theme.
Oh, for sure.
That was a lot more fun to listen to.
I love that theme.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of the cinematics, I had to give it a 1.
I did too. It's so bad, so distracting from what's happening in the movie that I can't give it anything higher than a 1. I don't know what they were doing or what they thought they were doing. Like I said, a lot of what I've been saying about this review is I respect what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But I don't respect what they were trying to do with the cinematics. I don't know what they were trying to do with the cinematics.
I will say, if you just took one scene out of it, you'd be like, oh, it's just one scene. You can have an extreme close up in a scene, and sometimes it looks really good.
Yeah.
And you can also have shaky cam in a scene, and they can look really good. So if you take any scene out of the movie, you'll be like, that's fine. What are they talking about? But when you watch the whole movie and realize that it's all filmed like that,
yeah,
that's when I start to have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, it's got to be a 1.5 or 1 for me.
It's a 1 for me as well.
Lady Laura, shouldn't you find refuge?
There is no refuge, Kilo. Jor-El was right. This is the end. Make a better world than ours, Cal.
On an entertainment scale, I wasn't entertained. I'm just going to put that out there. This movie, the tone of this movie, and I was going to talk about more about this, is so dismal. It's so drab. It's so depressing. And even the color scheme is pretty dark.
It's true.
And so it's not fun to watch. There's nothing about this that's like exciting or fun or like, it's just such a sad, lonely movie. It's just so, it's like, it's not, there's nothing about it that's entertaining to watch, and then you can't even really get into what's happening, because, like, okay, here's the thing. I don't need a superhero movie to be fun and bouncy like the Marvel movies are. I'm okay with some darker movies like The Dark Knight or Batman Begins, but the difference between movies like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are that they were dark, but they were...
To a purpose.
Dark to a purpose. They made a good movie from that. Man of Steel was just not... And it wasn't even, like, dark. I'm not even going to use the word dark. It's just not... It's so dismal. It's so gray. It's so boring. And there's nothing about it to make you feel like you're enjoying yourself. Or at least I didn't feel like I was enjoying myself even once during that movie.
No. I'm okay with having dark superhero movies. I'm okay with having a dark Superman movie.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
But I don't want you to start there with Superman. And I know that I said this a lot about The Amazing Spider-Man. And I've said it a lot in this review, and I'm going to say it more. You're going to get used to me saying that. There are characters that I love. And Superman is one of them. Spider-Man is one of them. Batman is one of them. I really like The Flash. There are comic book characters that I love, and I want movie adaptations to be accurate to who those characters are. Yes, there are dark Superman storylines, but they're built upon the fact that Superman is a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not established in this movie. And if you take out Superman's desire to help people in this movie, you might as well be watching one of those other like TV shows about evil superheroes. You know, if I wanted to watch Superman, you know, murder people, I would watch The Boys. You know, they jumped several stories to get here. And it was dull and boring and gray and dark, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel, it wasn't, when I watch the DC animated universe, there's excitement there. You know, there's excitement, and it's fun and it's laughs, and it doesn't need to be that, but there needs to be something.
There are at least some moments in these dark movies that are light-ish. You know, like even in movies like The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, there are moments that put a smile on your face.
Sure.
They're not frequent necessarily, but there are moments of it.
Yeah.
And Man of Steel, it doesn't have a single moment. I remember there's a scene where when he first puts on Superman cape, he starts to fly and he crashes, and Ben says, "I don't need a comic relief moment right now." And I thought, was that supposed to be funny? Because it didn't even occur to me that that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single moment where I was like, oh, that was supposed to be funny. There was nothing in there. And again, I don't need it to be funny, but I just something.
I need something to
catch
catch my attention.
Yeah.
With The Dark Knight, there's not very many funny scenes in The Dark Knight, but you're on the edge of your seat the entire movie.
Yeah.
I like the horror genre. In those horror movies, there's not a lot of funny scenes.
No.
But you're on the edge of your seat the whole time because of suspense. There's always some portion or feeling in the movie that keeps you invested, and that feeling was not in The Man of Steel.
No.
It was not in The Man of Steel. So I gave the entertainment a 1.
I gave it a 1 as well. I was not entertained really at all during the whole movie. So when you add up all of my scores for Man of Steel, I gave it a 1.4. It's very weak. It's a very weak film, and I wanted to like it. I remember when this movie first came out, I was not a Superman fan, but I wanted to be a Superman fan, and so I was really excited to watch Man of Steel, and I just have never liked it. And even watching it again now, I'm like, because I want to like this movie. I want this to be good. I want to see what other people see in it. I don't see it. I don't see what is likable about this movie. It's choppy. It's cinematically awful. It's very gray and dismal. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get what the hype is about this movie.
And I am a Superman fan. So I'm not, like, this isn't like, well, why is Superman so invincible? You know, this movie, when I added everything together, is a 1.2. It is worse than the original Superman movies.
Yeah, I was actually...
Not all of them,
not
but
all
many
of
of
them.
them.
Yeah, most of them. I was actually going to say, this is the last standalone Superman movie that they've put out since 2013. So, if I was going to rank the Superman movies, the theatrically released Superman movies, the only one that would go below this would be Superman 4, Quest for Peace. That's the only one that I would put lower than this.
Yeah.
Then I would go Man of Steel, then probably Superman 3, then probably Superman Returns, Superman the movie, and then Superman 2 is probably the best one that they've made, and I didn't even really love that one. But it unfortunately, when it comes to Superman, it's probably my favorite one.
It's a lot better. Here's what I'm gonna say, because I've talked a lot of negative. I've never had like a really good thing to say about a Superman movie.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a Superman movie that's accurate to his character and understands Clark Kent and Superman and his love for human beings, watch All-Star Superman. The entirety of the All-Star Superman comic book and then movie adaptation is about Superman finds out that he is dying. And his whole idea is, how am I going to keep the Earth safe? How am I going to continue to protect people? And how can I put them in a position where they can take care of themselves when I'm not gone, when I'm not here? Mm-hmm. And it shows him as he... and he believes in people, even Lex Luthor. You know, he stops Lex Luthor from his evil plan, and Lex Luthor says, "Why would you do that? I could have saved the world." And Superman says, "You could have done that a long time ago." And you realize that Lex Luthor has this switch where he says, "I let my hatred for Superman stop me from doing good, and that's not going to happen anymore." And so you see that Superman is trying to make a change in humans' lives so that they can be better. That Superman, and the Superman that you find in the comics, and the Superman that you see in the animated universe, is not the Superman that we have in the Snyderverse. And that is hard on me. I want to see Superman on the big screen. I want to have good things to say about a Superman movie. and so far I just haven't.
Yeah, honestly. How would you rank them? Just the live action ones.
The live action ones?
Yeah.
Superman 2, Superman 1, Superman 3, because that movie is probably my favorite movie of all
So
time.
funny in a bad way.
Superman Returns, and then Superman A Quest for Peace.
And Man of Steel at the bottom.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot about Man of Steel. That's the movie we're reviewing.
Yeah.
Superman 2, Superman 1, Man of Steel.
Really?
Maybe Superman Returns.
I would choose Superman Returns over Man of Steel.
Maybe.
I would.
That's like,
down.
it's a close one for me.
Yeah.
And then 3 and then 4. But 3
Yeah.
is still my favorite movie.
Anyway, that is our take on Man of Steel. I know we're probably going to get a lot of hate from you Man of Steel lovers out there, but that is our opinions
The
on
good
it.
news is you Man of Steel lovers, don't watch our videos.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and tune in next week where we do 2013's The Wolverine, which I've never seen, but I'm excited to give it a shot.
I have seen it.
We'll see you guys next week, or whenever.
Deuces.
Bye.
Or whatever.